From signing with the Saudi-funded Live Golf League to backstabbing his longtime friend Pat Perez, here's the real reason why everyone hates Phil Mickelson. Now, Mickelson's one of the best golfers of the modern era, and the sheer longevity his career has had cannot be undermined. I mean, the dude literally won the PGA Championship when he was almost 51. But as they say, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And sadly for Phil, he chose to be golf's biggest villain. After all, you don't just leave the PGA Tour for a Saudi-funded league and not be hated by everyone. Obviously, Lefty would say that he had his reasons because the tour didn't treat its members well enough and how the purses at tournaments weren't good enough. But we all know why he joined Greg Norman at Live, right? For that $200 million contract. Oh, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making a bunch of cash. The real issue, however, is the fact that he's the poster boy for the most controversial league in the world. Again, not his fault that he's the first high-profile golfer they signed, but it's not like he's trying to hide any of it. In fact, Mickelson's a proud Live Golf member, which just boils a lot of people's blood. After all, the league is funded by the Saudi Investment Fund, which has links to the Saudi Crown Prince, and if you don't know what that means, well, let's just say that they don't exactly have the best human rights record in the world. Although, if that wasn't bad enough, then there's Phil's tendency to stumble into controversy as well. I mean, joining Live was pretty controversial, but being hypocritical about it? Yeah, Mickelson's the master at that. Like, just rewind back to the time when he'd just joined Live Golf because he went ahead and criticized the Saudi government while he was being paid by them. Wait, what? Yeah, not only did Lefty call them scary mother effers because of their horrible human rights record, but he also said that they execute people over there for being gay. Now, this wasn't an unpopular opinion back then, and most PGA Tour pros were saying it. The difference, though, is that Mickelson was saying these things and joining Live Golf at the same time. Oh, and to make matters even worse, he also admitted to the fact that Live was indeed sports washing for the Saudis, which is basically the notion that they're spending boatloads of cash to hide their wrongdoings. Again, not wrong. It's just that you can't have your cake and eat it too. Here's the real kicker, though. Right around the time he was saying these things, Phil was also criticizing the PGA Tour for not giving media rights to its players and demanding money to compete in the match event. Like, the dude just could not pick a side. And for this, he got so much heat from the media and the fans that he literally had to leave the sport for a few months and lay low. This isn't the only instance of the golfer saying super controversial things. In fact, Mickelson literally doesn't have a filter, which lands him in some hot water. Seriously, whether it's him getting into Twitter feuds with random people or saying stuff he doesn't mean, the dude is like a controversy magnet. Like this one time, Lefty went on this really long rant about the USGA CEO Mike Wayne on Twitter and said some questionable stuff. Now for context, his Twitter tirade came after the USGA reworded one of his exemptions for the US Open, which denied Phil's fellow Live man Taylor Gooch a place in the tournament. And well, Mickelson was very angry about this, calling it a move on social media. In fact, he tweeted this 3 times after each hour between like 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. on a random morning. Oh, and get this, he specifically referred to Mike as well, calling him out over the changed rule and again repeating the words move. What's more, when people commented that the USGA's decision was right because Taylor had joined Live Golf, Mickelson started fighting them as well. I mean, we've all seen golfers express their frustrations at an organization before, but this was actually bizarre for Mickelson. Not only did he keep tweeting the same thing over and over again, which was weird in and of itself, but you also just don't call Mike Wan that. That being said, Lefty's been in the game for such a long time that he can sometimes forget his privilege as well, and that's exactly what happened when he randomly started talking about taxes this one time. Yeah, it's the classic case of a multimillionaire feeling sad because he's got to pay taxes. Now, this happened back in 2013 when California was going to increase taxes on people earning more than $250K. And, well, during his clearly golf-related press conference after the Humana Challenge, Lefty somehow ended up pivoting to taxes for some reason and started talking about how he actually might leave Cali because of them. He talked about how his tax rate will go up to 62% and how that's unsustainable for him. Though obviously this was super tone deaf from him because not only was he complaining about stuff that most people can't even perceive, but also even if the tax rate was that high, he'd still be raking in millions of dollars. So he deservingly got grilled by everyone. In fact, he made so many headlines for these comments that he actually had to come out and apologize later. Yep, in a statement that he released the following day, Mickelson said that finances and taxes were his personal matter and that he shouldn't have made them public. What's more, he also said sorry to anyone he'd insulted with his comments and vowed to not let it happen again. Now, I'm sure he's gonna continue to say controversial stuff until he retires, but that's not the only issue that people have with him. After all, his gambling addiction got really bad at one point as well. And sure, you may say that the whole gambling thing is his personal stuff and it doesn't affect anyone else, but remember, the dude's a role model for a lot of people, and his habits do have an impact on things. I mean, Mickelson himself called his addiction reckless and said it almost destroyed his career at one point. What exactly did he do though? Well, apparently he bet on all sorts of sporting events, including golf tournaments, and things got so bad that at one point, he was out nearly $40 million. Not to mention, he also accrued a lot of debt during this time period, and even had to sell some of his investments to pay almost $2 million to the gambling company Walters. Oh, and he had to seek therapy once he started betting on his own practice rounds, which is insane. You know what makes all these things worse, though? The fact that Mickelson is still an incredible golfer. I mean, he's arguably one of the best players to ever hold a golf club, with some people saying he's only second to Tiger Woods in the modern era. Seriously, he's won 6 major championships and continues to perform at the top of his game even into his mid-50s. Plus, if we're talking about sheer consistency and longevity, then he's only the 3rd ever golfer to make 100 cuts at major championships. Just process that fact in your head for a second. There are only 4 majors each year, and Lefty's been at the elite level for so long that he's made it through the second round in 100 of those tournaments. The only other players who've done this? Gary Player and Jack Nicklaus. And yes, that means that not even Tiger Woods has done that, although he's also only started 91 majors as compared to Phil's 119. Still, you get the point, right? He could have been such a fan favorite and everyone would have absolutely adored him. But he just had to ruin his legacy by making weird comments everywhere. That being said, even though the Mickelson hate train has cooled down these days and people are actually kinda okay with him now, Pat Perez will forever be his biggest hater. Now, Phil and Pat used to be pretty good friends back in the day, and they even became Live Golf colleagues around the same time. That being said, something really bizarre has happened between the two since then, and now Perez absolutely despises Lefty. Why? Well, apparently it's something that Mickelson did behind his back, and it involves Perez's wife, too. In fact, speaking on a podcast in 2022, Pat went as far as to say that he's got a different kind of hate for Phil as compared to everyone else, and that he'd crossed a line that's just unforgivable. Yikes. Oh, and Perez also said how he was really hurt by Mickelson's actions, and they're never going to be friends again. So there you have it. From backstabbing a longtime friend, Pat Perez, to signing with the Saudi-funded Live Golf League, that was the real reason why everyone hates Phil Mickelson.